Hello, everyone. So, you may notice that the picture quality on the video is actually a lot better than usual. And so, the reason for that is actually for Christmas, my parents went out and got me a new camera. This camera, for those of you who care, is the Logitech C920. It's a web camera. It's pretty wide. I'll probably put a picture on it after the stream's over. A picture of it up on Facebook after the stream's over. But I do have it off to the side of the screen as opposed to having the webcam from my laptop, which was on top of the computer. So I might be looking back and forth from side to side, looking at my different screens just so I can keep up to date with what's going on. I have the chat over here, so if I'm looking that way, then I'm looking at the chat. I have the rest of my computer stuff over here, so that's what I might be looking at. The instrument you saw me incorrectly playing was a mandolin, so I can pull that back up here. It's interesting. It's a 8-stringed instrument. You can see that there are eight knobs on the end, and what I wasn't expecting was the fact that it's actually tuned to the same tuning as a violin, which in post makes sense because of the name. So if you listen to it, it sounds a little bit like an orchestra warming up, which is kind of cool to me because actually just playing the whole thing sounds pretty pleasant to the ear. But I have a couple chords I have figured out a little bit. So I'm going to be messing around with this in the days to come and on into the future, but I can add it to the stash of instruments you can see in the back there. So today I just wanted to give a quick update on what's going on. Also, you may notice, hopefully, the static is gone with the mic. My girlfriend was kind enough to go out and hunt down an XLR cord for me for Christmas, and also she did a lot of work because if you don't know, we moved into this apartment at the beginning of last semester, and since then it's actually been quite cluttered just with some stuff that we haven't really figured out what we're doing with yet. And while I was away at my family home in my hometown, Ormond, she actually did a lot of organization, and it looks pretty nice. So you may notice there's a little bit different of a background. That's partially because the camera is where it is, but at the same time, that's also due to the fact that we've done some organization. And hopefully in the coming, I don't want to say weeks, but maybe within the next month or so, we should be reorganizing this room and acquiring some new stuff for the room, like a desk that's going to go back in that corner, and that's where the new command center will be set up. And then over here, where everything else is right now, is going to be a couch. So that'll be in the background of the shot, but that's not too important. But that's generally what I wanted to give an update on. Also, I got a new amp. I can go grab that. This is the Acoustasonic 15 from Fender. It's as you can probably guess, acoustic specialized amp for me to mess around with because I play the acoustic guitar mostly. Okay, but on to business. So, as you may know, this is a week from the previous stock market update. So we are going to be updating the stock market and seeing how the vote went. Now, I did check the vote right before I started this, and we got some people to come out and vote. I did have to send out a mass text and kind of get people aware, because I think a lot of people don't realize that this is going to be a weekly reoccurring thing, but hopefully eventually it will start to stick hold and we'll get some returning voters in the poll. So that reminds me, I forgot to put the poll on this initially, which I'll do while I'm babbling here. But and then once we have that set up, we will just go on to update the stream. So support your stock. Your choices are red, yellow, green, and blue. And if you don't know what's going on, I would suggest you go check out the first video. But essentially what's happening is we have a stock market competition that's going on, and the actual stocks themselves are fake stocks represented by the names of colors, which are fluctuating in value based off of votes in polls that will be on each weekly video. So now if you go up into the top corner, there should be an eye icon that you can click on, and it will be a poll you can vote in for this video, which will affect the stock market in the next video, in the next Wednesday or midweek update. So we're going to switch the screen over so we can see the stock market, and I'm going to get my calculator set up for the random factor. But you can see Megan is atop the leaderboard because of her risky maneuver of placing most of her money into blue. Now I did buy out or sell a little bit last week when I noticed that blue had gone up as much as it did. But we're going to see what's going to happen with the stock prices. So I'm getting a number between 0 and 50. And we're going to switch our screen over here so we can update. So just make a mental image of the, I guess they're over here for you guys. Make a mental image of the scoreboard for right now. And we're going to go update the stock market. So we are going to first see what kind of day it is in the market. So you should be able to see this. Let's see if it'll focus. It has. Let me see if I can get a nice shot at. All right, okay, there we go. So we're going to pick our random number 22. So fairly average, but it's still on the favor of a good day. So you can see it's yellow, which means that it's a fairly average day. Ignore the fact that all the stock has gone down for the moment. That's because there is 0 in the spot for the vote. So we're just going to go across from left to right with the colors here. So the red stock got a vote of 0%. I should also mention there were only 3 people who voted in this running of the stock market. So it's going to be some things where we need to round a little bit. Yellow also got 0%, which leaves everything for green and blue, which once again is looking pretty good for Megan at the moment. But it'll be even better when I tell you that green got 33% and blue got 67% of the vote. That being because it's 66.666666, and that 0.6 rounds up to 67. So we have our new market. You can see green has bounced back a little bit from its recent drop, and blue has once again, after I hit enter, you will see that it has actually skyrocketed up to 37. So we're going to hit the new market here, zero out the market factor, and we see that our new stock market is right here. So we're going to go check the scoreboard. You can see that Megan now has a significant increase, almost doubling her money in just 2 weeks. I have put about 1.5 onto mine. That's due to the fact that I sold a lot of my blue last time, but I did buy into green, which is showing that it is going up. Now, I want to see if there's anything. I see that yellow is down a little bit and red is down a little bit, but they're also fairly close to the original starting point. So I don't know if I want to buy into red and yellow. I may change my mind later in the stream, but I'm still going to be figuring that out. So pardon me, actually, if I'm looking to the side a lot. That's where my screen is. I mentioned that in the start. So we can see even Steven is actually up to 120,000, which means that the market is doing fairly well compared to its original point, which was 100,000 here with Boring Boris. So what I need to do is I need to sort these from largest to smallest. You can see that my sister Kate has jumped above Boring Boris, but has not yet caught even Stevens. So, but at the moment, Megan is still atop the leaderboard, almost doubling her money in just 2 weeks. And so now I do need to decide if I'm going to do anything with the stock values. So I have earned money on these green, and I'm debating whether I should hold on to them. I think blue is a good investment to hold on to whatever I have left, but I don't know if green, because if we go look at the historic data, it's kind of up and down. Let me add in this week. So if I say 5, what are our scores there? 93, 90, 160, 137. So 93, 90, 160, 137. So I'm going to hit update, and you can see our graph has now updated to accommodate the new values in the market. So you can see green is still on this trend of going up and up, but there are some zigzags. Blue is almost linear, which is somewhat surprising, but blue is continuously going up from this low in week 3, and red and yellow are now on a downfall. So we haven't seen a lot of data to show that any of these are long-lasting trends, but it is an interesting thing to look at the graphs, because you can now see that blue has officially risen above red and yellow. And so yellow I can understand. Red tends to be a fairly popular color, but I guess with the low voting count, it tends to kind of be a little bit iffy for people. So once again, if you are a red supporter, or if you're a supporter of any of our 4 stock, please go up and vote in the corner. It doesn't take that long, and even if you don't watch the rest of this video, vote for the stock market, because the audience is what's fueling the fun here. So now I do need to decide whether I'm going to do anything, and I did mention I'm going to talk a little bit about the AI, and so I'll be doing that after I finish up with the stock market. But I think I don't know if I'm going to regret this, but I think I'm going to sell my green. Red, as I said, has kind of broken even. It's still a little bit of a loss, but I don't know that I want to let go of that right now, because, like I said, red tends to be a fairly popular color with people. I think it's just kind of getting hit hard by the sample bias that has been voting. So what I'm going to do is, so green's value is 160 right now. So we are going to say 160 times 50 is 8,000. So if I sold out on green right now, I would get 8,000 back. And I'm just debating whether that's a good idea, because I didn't really earn too much, but at the same time, I didn't really buy in when it was too low. I bought in when it was above 0, I believe, or maybe no, I did that right at the start, but it was in the positive. So I think green's a fairly popular color, and I think it would be beneficial to me to hold on to those 50 stock, but I think I might. I think I'm going to hold out. I think I'm going to hold out where I am. So if you have any suggestions on whether I should do something differently from that, leave them in the chat. But I think for right now, I'm going to hold out. If anyone's watching who is participating in the stock market from being on the show, you can message me at any point during the week and ask me to update your stock values, whether it be selling or buying based off of how much money you have left. And so you've seen the prices that they are going for right now. They are 93, 90, 160, and 137. And if you want to change what your scores are, then or change what your stock index is, or what is that, portfolio? If you want to adjust your portfolio, message me during the week. And also, as I mentioned, the people participating in the stock market, other than Boring Boris and even Steven, who are just placeholders, all of the people have been on the show. So if you want to participate in the stock market, as opposed to just being a audience member who is voting in the stock market to cause the fluctuations, then if you have a topic you think you can talk about for about 15 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, if it's 20, that's fine, then let me know, and we will try and work out how you can get on the show. But for right now, that's all I really want to talk about in the stock market, so I'm going to save this off, and I'll give you one last look at the historic data so you can see how things are going, but I am going to switch it back over to the regular camera. So I want to talk AI and specifically the data mining project. So I had mentioned that I had all the pieces, I just hadn't yet put them together. Well, over the break, I did fiddle around with putting them together, and I was a little bit disappointed because, as I mentioned, my AI was fairly, I don't want to say efficient, but it was fairly repetitive in achieving answers. And so if you don't know what the data mining project is, essentially what was going on was I had a set of data that I created based off of an equation. That equation, to start off, was fairly simple. It would be like variable 1 plus variable 2 plus variable 3 plus variable 4. And I created an algorithm using steepest descent to not do necessarily what steepest descent normally does. What steepest descent is usually used for in terms of solving equations is for adjusting coefficients to make a linear combination optimized. So if you don't know what those are, I don't have the time to explain them right now. I have done talks on them in the past. I'll try and put a video or something up in the corner to explain what I mean by that. But what my steepest descent algorithm does is it takes pieces of equations. So pieces like x plus y over 2, or something like y to the z divided by q. I don't know. And that didn't mean to rhyme. It just kind of happened. And what it did with those is it organized them, and then it would find the combination of those pieces given a certain amount of slots available that was optimal for a given data set to describe that data set. So what it would do is it would take in all of the inputs, find out which pieces, given the pieces it was presented with, would correctly or closely represent the actual answer, and then it would test that, and then obviously there's probably going to be some error in most cases, so it would try and minimize that error of the equation in producing an output that is equivalent to the actual output of the data. And so this is something that I was hoping I would be able to do, because what I can do is have a deep learning algorithm create random pieces and associations each generation, and have the steepest descent simply optimize it each generation for a given amount of pieces. And so I did that. I took my steepest descent algorithm, and I hooked it up with my deep learning algorithm, which essentially was just randomly creating pieces each generation, and then if those pieces were shown to be important, it would keep them around to be used in later generations. Now, what I found was that the more pieces that were introduced each generation, the harder it was for the algorithm to find the answer within those pieces. And the way I tested this was I had, like I said, my very simple algorithm, my very simple beginning data set, which was just variable 1 plus variable 2 plus variable 3 plus variable 4. So this is fairly simple to arrive at. It's all the original variables, no deep learning necessary, and those variables would be optimized immediately on the first go, as soon as it got to the point where it had 4 slots to work with. And I did see this when I didn't have that many deep learning variables added in each generation. I think I had 2, so there was originally 9 input variables, perhaps even smaller than that. I think there might have been 8. No, okay. So there's 9 input variables and 1 output. So in total, there's 10 variables to work with, but you can't really do anything with the output variable because the algorithm itself wouldn't know the output. It would just check with it afterwards. And so if I plugged it in and said you have 4 slots to work with, it would spit out the answer pretty consistently. And so I have shown videos of this working in the past. I'll try and find one to put up in the corner for you guys. But what I found when I hooked up the deep learning was if I introduced too many random associations each generation, it would water down the correct answer and the random ones would win out sometimes. So what I mean by this is the way that my algorithm works is because there's an entire data set, it can't just work off of reducing error, because some of that error needs to be reduced in the positive direction and some of it needs to be reduced in the negative direction. I explained this by showing that if you add a sine function to a cosine function, their errors kind of level out to a straight line. And so it's hard to show where that error is. So what I did, as opposed to that, is I took a 100-point sample of the data, and at each point, I optimized and found the best equation. And then at the end, I counted up how many times each best equation showed up, and the one who showed up the most was selected as the optimal equation. Now, I know this isn't the best way to do it. It's kind of forcing it to do it, but it was very successful in simple cases. The problem was when I upped the ante and added in some more complex variables, if the variables were present, they would it would optimize fine, because that's how it works. If the variables are there, it finds the best configuration and presents it for further evaluation. But if the deep learning had to create those variables, the problem is the deep learning itself was working on an evolutionary algorithm. So it would create a random generation of associations and see whether they became important. And so I think I need to work a little bit on the actual creation of associations, so that there's a little bit more intuition into what associations show up each generation. So I think that's the kink I need to work with right now. I'm pretty sure the algorithm itself is fine at the moment, but I might have to work a little bit more on it just to see if I can get it to be a little bit more powerful in terms of searching through a large pool of pieces and finding the correct pieces. So that's generally what I have to update. If you have anything that you are confused about on what I said, I'll be sure to answer any questions that you have. If you want to post those in the comments, if it's something that I feel like I didn't explain well enough, I will answer that in the next video. But if it's something that I feel like I can explain, or perhaps I did explain, I just maybe the wording I used didn't work for you guys, then I might just answer that in the comments and then try and pin it up to the top so that people can just read the comments. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about for today. We're pushing on about 26 minutes, so I think that's about the length I want to go. But the stock market looks like it's shaping up to be a little bit more confusing, and I'm hoping that everybody will be learning the schedule here so that we can get a little bit more participation in the voting. So if you have not already, go up in the corner, just click the eye. There might be a couple videos from me putting things that I mentioned before, but if you scroll down, there should be one that is a poll. All you do is click on the option that you would like. You'll have your 4 colors there. You choose the one you want, and then you'll see the real-time results as they're going on. And so the way this works is the next Wednesday stream, or if it is on Wednesday, which they usually are, I will update the stock market again with those new percentages. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope that the visual quality and the audio quality is a little bit better. I know I tweaked a couple things with the audio delay because I had seen some in the past, so I'm going to be checking in on that. But as I said, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will be seeing you on Saturday.